once before, like 2-3 years ago, which I won. Um, so with this loss versus Griffin, we're now 1-1. This game is kind of there are a few elements I would like to highlight, and I'm gonna go into some of the lines where the computer recommended I do something else. There are also some just bonkers computer lines that even looking at them, I'll share a few of them with you guys. But they just make no sense to me whatsoever. That's even after like looking at it a little longer. So chess is wild. Um, Overall, I'm perfectly happy with my opening. Perfectly happy with how I played the vast majority of this game. Um, I did make one mistake, which I would like to specifically talk about why I made that mistake, because I'm pretty sure I know why. And I know it's very important to find out reasons for why you do things. So hopefully next time you don't do the same thing. So let's get into it. So the way I'm going to do the database here is I'm not going to do my online book. I'm going to start off with Masters. This game was in Masters opening database till around move 12. And it was in Lichess opening database till around move 19, which is kind of hilarious. It could just be that, there's a fewer, what's the word? There's like a smaller pool to pick from for Masters games. Or maybe they're somehow more rigorous in like what games they let in. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's going to be annoying. Let's try that. Microphone is getting in the way. So, I'm a d4 player, as a lot of you probably know. I play e4 too, but in tournaments I generally play d4. And I know both sides of the King's Indian pretty well. I know the Catalan variations pretty well. I'm a d4, c4, and f3 player, basically. A lot of times online I'll throw a4 in there, as some of you probably also know. e6, e6, c6. He played this a little differently than I have seen, and he had some interesting ideas in here that I might steal later on. So I'm going into Queen's Gambit declined, pseudo-Catalan variation, or maybe it's just regular Catalan, closed till he takes on c4. Castles, he takes. You can play here as I did. You might even be able to play knight to e5. I gotta get rid of these arrows. Can you play knight to e5? Yeah, and e5 is mainline. Anyway, I didn't do any of that. I played queen a4, just because there's no way for him to guard the pawn. I'm sure some crazy people have figured out how to make b4 work. As you can see, there is like none in the Masters database, but in Lichess database. Where did we go? In Lichess database, where did I go? I don't know where I was going. Anyway, where was I? Oh, this is what I was looking at. Lichess database features nearly 200 games with people playing b4. And it's not terrible for black. It's slightly over 0.5. So if you learn this as black, like, you could get your opponent out of prep really easily by playing this way. If there's not like some easy way to punish it as white, you can use these types of things as weapons if you want. Find quirky moves that are still sort of working. Anyway, back to the game. He did not play b5. He played a6, which is sort of new to me. Takes b4. Now, when he first played this, I was like, well, if he doesn't get c5 in really quick, then, you know, I'm going to have something to play against, like a long-term positional advantage. But since I retreated to c2, he fixed that really easy, just by playing knight c6 to b4 and then c5. And he got a very comfortable, sort of equalized opening. So bishop b7 and bd2. He played knight c6. I wanted to keep it in Masters database for now. So the Masters database, the big boys are playing this opening up until his knight c6. The big boys do not play knight c6. The 2600s do not play knight c6. Anyway, I just guarded my pawn. I guess you can play knight b3 here. I haven't studied openings for a long time, so I'm just shooting off the hip. Knight b4, queen back. He gets his c5 in, so to me this is equalized now, even though I'm still less developed than him. That computer says it's slightly worse, but I didn't. This seemed equal to me, because takes, b4, and bishop b2. So I didn't do that immediately. I played e4, knight back, e5. I thought I would be able to rustle up something on the king side, like for sure. And I came close to doing that, but an attack never really materialized. Knight to d5. I moved my knight back and forth on e4 way too many times. So my idea here was he has to play g6, as far as I can tell. f5 looks ridiculous. Nah, he can't play f5. He could take the knight first with his bishop and then play g6, but that doesn't look good. So he has to play g6. And at this point, I was like, okay, I've got something to work with. The computer says I have nothing to work with and it's completely equal, but I think from a human perspective, even just looking at this position, h4, h5 is gonna make something happen, or there's at least a potential there. So I played h4, plays knight back to d7, which was kind of strange. Like, I thought his knight was placed pretty well where it was at, maybe to c4. But he played back to d7. I guess he's aiming for c5, which is where he landed eventually. I don't know why I didn't just play h5 here. My knight is adequately guarded. But I played queen e4, which is a very highly suspicious looking move. I'm not worried about the knight moving because the knight can't guard the bishop, so I guess that's why I thought I would be fine playing that. And my idea was, I think, if I remember right, was to come here and then play h4. Or h5, sorry. But he played knight c5. Why didn't I play queen g4 here? Is there something going on? Can I play queen g4? Oh. That's why. Because he can just kick me right back. Okay, and now this is just worse apparently. So I played the better move, queen to e2. He plays knight b3, which doesn't really accomplish anything besides grab the bishop pair. And it's not really an open board, it's kind of locked up, so I'm not sure if that's necessarily super great here. Rook comes in, knight back to e4, he takes my bishop, queen b6, I think that's a good move. It's a good activating move. His knight on d5 is very nice, but then my knight on e4 is also very nice. So all the way up to here I was perfectly happy with how I was playing. Rooks are facing each other. I did consider knight to d6, not here, but a little bit later on I considered it. But I never did play it. I played h5, which is fine. And it's funny now the computer recommends knight to e3, trying to take advantage of this distraction between my knight e5, and then I play knight to I play knight to d6. He takes my rook, I take his rook, and like, yeah, like I don't get that too much. So he played his rook back to the game. No knight d6 yet. He played his rook to c4. I played knight f to g5, trying to provoke h6. I just wanted to play queen here, and he can't guard that pawn. So when I played knight f to g5, I wanted to provoke this and then take here, which is what happened. And this actually got a slight advantage. I think he was a little bit surprised that I was trying to let him take my knight here, but I think h takes g5 and takes f7 with check with the queen coming to h5. I don't think he can allow that, so he just took back the pawn. I played my knight back to h3. I guess I didn't play to f3 because I don't know why I didn't play to f3. I guess h3 is the better move according to the computer. If I go to f3, he still has this knight to e3, which I'm sure he didn't consider. I know I never considered it. So knight back to h3. Computer still wants knight to e3. He played king g7. I was happy with this position. Perfectly satisfied. Like, I've disrupted his kingside pawn structure a bit. My king looks a little safer. However, I probably should have played something like knight to d6 earlier, or ever. I never did play it for this position to be like doing anything for me. So I played rook to d2, sort of prophylaxis against him like lining up on the c file and dropping a rook there, I think. Queen c6. I finally got my queen to g4, but I just get kicked back. He plays b4. Now at this point, the computer really wants knight to d6. And this is kind of a funny line that the computer recommends. Check, king h2, bishop takes knight, pawn takes, queen takes. Nope, this was not the funny line. Sorry, that was a boring line. Yeah, false alarm. b4. I played knight e to g5. He played rook to g4. Now we're getting very close to my blunder, and as you can see from the engine. Now I don't know if you guys like looking at your games with the engine on or not. I like looking at it with it on because it's a quick way to like see things that I missed during the game. That's the only reason I have it on. The actual number, like whether it's +1, +2, +5, that is not as important to me. It's just the engine will say something is happening here, and if I didn't notice that before, then it's helpful just to call it out to me real quick. So this is kind of a funny line here, actually. Apparently his rook g4 just looks ridiculous too. Like, what are you doing with your rook? I guess he's attacking my knight, but I guess he's attacking my knight, but it just like looks odd. So this computer line is kind of hilarious. Rook to c2, queen here. Rook c7. Rook c7. So if he takes, there's a fork here, right? Rook takes g3 check. King h2. Rook takes h3 check. Now, no, not knight takes, because then he can take my rook, because there's no more knight e6, right? So king takes rook. Bishop c8 check. Rook takes. Bishop takes g5. And when all is said and done, assuming I play all these perfect computer moves, which are all ridiculous, and I wouldn't see a single one of them, assuming I do all those things, then I'm a +3, right? So if I go back, his rook g4 move, did I consider bishop takes? I probably should have. I probably really should have, because, like, well, first off, he has to take with the pawn, right? So I'm immediately getting a passed pawn. I think what the reason I didn't consider it that much was because I just figured, oh, he can just push his pawn one more, and then he has like this battery along the long diagonal, and I didn't want that. So that's probably why I didn't consider taking it that much. And also, all I was thinking about here was bishop f3 trapping his rook, right? So where is his rook going? I guess his rook can go back here. Oh, we're not there yet. Knight c2, queen b6. I brought my knight back. The computer still wants knight to e3. He finally got his queen in, and the game has always been either at 0 or it gives like a plus. Aside from his rook g4 move, where it gave a plus 2.5 with a line that I didn't really consider, and I wouldn't have seen any of the follow-up to that line, the initial bishop takes d5. Aside from that, so far in this game, aside from that move, the game has just been equal with hardly any swings. It didn't like queen d4. Didn't like queen d4. I'm not sure why this is better for white. I don't know if it's. I don't look into the computer recommendations if it's not like a +2 or above, because I just automatically assume I won't understand where the advantage is coming from. So I played bishop f3. Note, his queen is now where his rook was going to be able to go before. Well, my rook is also right here, so there were a few other squares open, but I just saw bishop f3, and where does he go with his rook? He goes nowhere with his rook, right? Now, this is the thing I wanted to say a few words on as far as making blunders and why we make them. So, one thing that I had going against me here, I was up on time. And you might ask, why is that something that's going against you? I think I had maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the initial time control before we hit move 40. And he was running on like a minute here. He had like a minute, 2 minutes, something like that. And I distracted myself. Okay, so we hit move 40. He hit move 40. And he got up. Or he hit move 40. He didn't get up yet. He hit move 40. And I was like looking at the clock, and I was wondering why it didn't automatically add 30 minutes to his clock. Because I just assumed that's how it worked. Apparently I don't know very much about tournaments, because I thought that's how it worked, but he's like, oh, I think it just adds 30 minutes after I run out of time. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, that's ridiculous. That's going to traumatize me if I have to sit there and not know if it's going to add 30 minutes or not. And maybe I'm just completely off with my understanding of how maybe some clocks work differently. I don't know. I didn't ever pay that much attention as to how and when exactly the extra time got added. But apparently he knew about this, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I think it's just supposed to, add 30 minutes once my time runs out." So he just I was just like thinking about something else beside the game at this point, and literally anything can make you blunder, especially during crucial moments. Like if there's a crucial moment and you're sitting there thinking about the clock or why something, and it was his clock, I shouldn't have even been concerned about that. But anyway, that got me thinking about other things than the game. And so eventually, he did run out of time, and it added 30 minutes, and he like sighed. He gave a sigh of relief. So I guess he didn't know for sure either, if that was actually going to happen. And this was all happening right when I had played Bishop F3. I thought I saw queen takes E5, but I was like, oh, it's fine. But all this is happening right now. The clock stuff was happening right at this moment of the game. And arguably, this is the first crucial moment of the game, aside from me somehow missing bishop takes d5, because there have been no major swings evaluation-wise, and internally, I didn't feel like I was ever in trouble up to this point, and I wasn't. The only thing that happened in the game, aside from it being equal, is that I thought I was just winning the exchange, right? So I was up on time, feeling good. I feel like I'm winning the exchange, feeling even better. And that's all that was going through my head. So I know, and sorry to anybody who's still listening to this if I'm being long-winded on this, but I think it's very important to hone in on what your mistakes are and how to avoid them. Like, one of the things that I discovered with myself and why I lose chess games when I actually lose them, a lot of it has to do with feeling internally like I'm winning. And in some cases I am winning, in some cases I'm not, but like misinterpreting the position, or even incorrectly interpreting it, and feeling like I'm winning, and then I go look at it afterward, and I was at a +2 or +3, but then like not like now, when I feel like I'm winning, the second I get that feeling, I tell myself, like, just slow down, get that thought out of your head. This is where you lose a lot. When you feel like you're winning, or you think you're winning, you let your guard down, and that's when somebody knocks you out. When you let your guard down. So I knew about that, and I check myself whenever I feel like I'm winning now, and over the board. Bullet and blitz doesn't matter. Like, let the feelings happen, doesn't matter. But here I have that. Specific method of dealing with the feeling that I'm winning, or that I have the advantage. And here I had the clock advantage. I had 15 minutes on the clock. He just ran out. Yes, he had 30 minutes, but I still had 15 minutes on him, right? So I had essentially 45 minutes left at this point. We're not quite to move 40. So all this stuff. Okay, I might have got ahead of myself. All this stuff was happening around this point, though. So I got his exchange. He took back. This is move 38. So the discussion about his clock running out and whatnot happened in the few moves coming up to move 40. It wasn't like at move 40. So to get back to the game, finally, he just took the pawn. Okay. Now at this point, I figure he saw like the issue with the rook exchange. He saw further into. He saw that there was something else going on just besides Gary winning the exchange, which I didn't see. Like at this point, I was sitting there worrying about his clock, and I didn't even consider like where does my knight go after he takes. No, not where does my knight go. I didn't consider. Okay, before I go forward, do you guys see any issue with bishop takes rook? You see any issue with this? If you look at the computer, it says it's equal, right? But it's not. It's not just that simple. Because he takes back. If I take back the pawn, which was my plan the entire time, there's an issue with that move. If I take back the pawn with my queen, there's an issue. So I'm gonna pause here and let you guys look at it for a second and see if you can find the issue. You can pause the video if you want. So there's an issue here, and I just didn't see it. I did not look past, and this is probably bullet and blitz mindset getting into my way. I didn't look past queen takes g4. I just thought I have the advantage. And it's not difficult to see it. My cats are attacking each other. It's not difficult. This is not difficult to see if I had just taken 2 seconds to look. Hey! Just take 2 seconds. Look at his response. Right? Knight to f6. Now, this is another something I need to highlight here with my thinking process that could be sort of improved upon. And that is that this is something I didn't think about, which I should have thought about before even thinking bishop to f3, right? Because bishop f3 is not my best move. As you can see, computer says I have a +1 advantage here, not bishop f3. And it's probably because his rook is like doing nothing and it's stuck on, g4. Maybe he's going to play h4, but like, I don't know. But I only thought of this one move, and that was bishop f3. But the reason that the point that I'm trying to make here is what I did not think about when considering bishop f3 is I did not consider the position after even if I just won his rook and there was no knight f6. If I had just won the exchange, I did not even look at the position afterward, which is ridiculous because I'm giving up the Catalan bishop, right? That makes that bishop there 10,000 times stronger the second I give this bishop up. That's something I can improve on in my own thought process from this game. When I start to think about winning an exchange, just think like I'm giving up the core of the Catalan position. It's like giving up the King's Indian bishop right here. It's the same concept, right? So moving right along, I won the exchange. I was like, oh cool, I won the exchange. And I had the thought you might be winning, and then I told myself stop, look at the position, or maybe I didn't tell myself that because I was sitting there thinking about the the clock situation, which is another like issue that I had at this moment. So I just took here. I missed knight f6 completely, and knight f6 works because number one, I gave up this bishop, and number two, this bishop became beastly at the moment that I gave this bishop up. This bishop became really strong. And if we go back, I didn't have to take the pawn either, but this is another ridiculous computer move. Maybe it's not even worth it to look into these. I think it's kind of entertaining just because like if I would never ever play something in a game, why look at it? But maybe it's entertaining for you guys. So computer says, oh yeah, just play knight h3 to g5. It's all cool. Isn't this just like hanging? So what's wrong with just taking the piece? Takes. Oh, knight to c5. So he just won my piece. He took my piece. Okay. He just took my piece. So I don't just take his piece back and then he takes back. So I take back and he takes back. Apparently this is like sort of okay too, which is also ridiculous because like two pieces. Yeah, his king's open, but if the queen ever gets here, then there's gonna be issues. But apparently this is just perfectly fine. So knight to c5. Okay. So bishop takes, knight to c5. And then the computer wants this dumb move again. Knight to e3. And then it wants me to take his bishop. Takes. Check. King h2. And then he takes my rook. And then I take his knight. And then queen c1. And it's a draw. Now, I just don't like... I don't understand. I would literally have to develop this new muscle, this new thought mechanism, after I spend however long it takes me to understand, like, how knight to g5 is a thing. So, Max, if you're watching this, maybe you could explain to me the thought process behind this. Because, like, I don't get it. Anyway, or anybody else who has any thoughts on just that whole thing. So, if I could have seen any of that, then I could have simply not been worse, but I'm not capable of seeing that, so I played queen takes g4, which essentially loses to knight f6. And it's not immediately lost, but -2, yeah, it's pushing it. So I played the best move here, which is so I had blundered here. I realized I blundered after he played knight f6. I was like, oh, well, why can't I just take his knight? Because there's a little issue here and here and here, small issue. So I can't take his knight, so I just have to give the piece up. I'm up the exchange here. So I was in damage control mode at this point. I was like, well, that's a blunder. I completely missed that move. But let's trade off queens and, you know, see what I can do. So we played like this. Now, -2 is not like straight up losing if you're playing a human. Versus a computer, probably -1 will lose. Versus a computer, if you have +3, you're still going to lose. So the numbers don't necessarily mean that much. You have to think of who you're playing, and then the numbers will have different meaning. But -2 is not. And then not only is it like just a rook and a knight versus 3 minors. There are many situations where that can be equal or winning even. But when your knight is like stuck, can't move anywhere, the only place I can move is here and destroy my pawn structure if he takes. So the knight is terribly placed and the rook is active, but as he showed in the endgame, he played a very good endgame. He actually played b3 and then just won my pawn, and I saw that coming pretty early on. So yeah, I didn't play the endgame super well. Apparently now knight g5 is like sort of holding on. The knight is out at least. Like, the bishop can't take it because the bishop is pinned. I didn't see that. I didn't look at that. I don't know why I didn't consider it at least. Anyway, I didn't. I took a6. I was like, oh, the a pawn is going to pretend to do something. That was my thought. The a pawn is going to pretend to do something, and I'm going to lose b2 and then lose the game. I don't know why I did not consider knight f4 here. Probably because it's not helping anything. He still just wins this, guards that, and this pawn is not nearly fast enough. So, yeah. King g2, bishop f6, check, check. If I could have won b3, maybe, would have been a different story, but I could not. So at this point, it's just lost. It was lost before this, but at this point, it was obviously, to me, lost. And I tried some silly things. My idea with playing knight to f3 was, I knew he was going to pin me, but my only idea was if he queens this and I take with my rook, then I can take his bishop. And if he just takes this, then he can't queen his pawn immediately. That was my. I knew it wasn't gonna work, but I was just trying to extend the game a little bit and see if he would do anything silly. And he did not. He played knight b6, which I also didn't see. And that just queens. I can't even sack the rook. I didn't consider a7. Can I take the knight? Check. Just getting mated. I can't queen because I'm getting mated right here. He might not have seen all that. Maybe I should have tried pushing the pawn. Yeah, maybe I should have tried pushing the pawn, but I just, I don't know why I didn't consider it, but I didn't. I think I didn't consider it because I saw that he was guarding it some two ways at least. What if he just queens immediately? He's still winning. Yeah. Okay, so he wouldn't have taken my knight on f3. That's not a human move to make. Anyway, that's my game 2. That's not the most painful game, actually. That game is coming up soon here against the other national master, which I didn't lose, but I didn't win either, and I should have. So I think that's the only other painful one I have to show you guys, but yeah, that was that. I'm perfectly happy with how I played during this game. Completely, perfectly happy with it. Even the blunder wasn't super obvious, and I had the excuse that I was sitting there worrying about Griffin's clock, which is ridiculous that I was doing that in the first place, but that is what was happening. And I just need to like think when I think I'm winning an exchange or something, just consider what are the ramifications. Like, what does it do? What does it do to the board when this piece disappears? His rook's already bad on g4. What does it do to me when my Catalan bishop disappears? That's what I have to ask myself next time. So yeah, this game could have gone either way. It was even most of the way. And my blunder right here, taking the pawn, which that wasn't the blunder. The blunder was really... My blunder was having the idea that I was going to win the exchange. That was my blunder. Because I would not have seen knight to g5, which is the only way to make that winning the exchange work. And that would have only been even, so there'd be no point in winning the exchange if the game is staying even. So, yeah, my blunder was having the idea of winning the exchange in the first place. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I know that was a little bit long-winded, but that's what you're gonna get. The next game up is... Who is up next? Ethan Hoops. Wait. Yeah. Yeah, Ethan Hoops. And then... Ethan Hoops. The last day was a draw and a win. Okay. No, the last day was 2 draws. Last day was 2 draws. Okay. So the next one up is versus a guy named Ethan Hoops, and his rating is 1825. He was white, I was black. And then after that, we have a game against National Master Daniel Herman, which is the other painful one, which I drew and I should have won, which I also possibly should have lost because I gave up the exchange in that game, and then I was winning after I gave up the exchange. So it's kind of maybe a similar story as this one, actually, from his perspective. And then my last game was against John Julian, 1928, and that game was a draw. And he actually played really well. I might have been sort of treading on thin ice at some points during that game, but it ended up a draw. So this game is, if you guys want to look through this game or any of the other ones that I upload here, you can go to my Snail Chess YT, go to my profile, and click on studies. I've got 38 of them. They'll be at the top here. So I have 2 of them uploaded. This is, the most recent one is versus Griffin, and then this one is versus, I don't know why it's, it shows down here. This one is versus Kavya. I was trying to figure out, like, where does it show the title? It shows it down here. Okay, that's that. As far as how I feel about this tournament overall, I'm happy. Overall, my only goal when playing open tournaments is to at least score half, like score even, which in the 1900s, I'm coming up on 2000 now, but even when I hit 2000, if I keep scoring even in opens and I'm playing, mostly 2000, 2200 players, or at least half of them, then I will continue to move up. And I scored 3 out of 5 in this tournament, so I didn't get a lot of rating points. I think I went from 1984 to 1993, but I'm finally coming within... I'm coming up on 2000 for the first time ever. 1993 is the highest I've ever been. And my new strategy for now, I don't know if it's a good strategy or not, but is to not study at all, not study openings, no formal study plan whatsoever. And I've played better and more consistently than I have when I was doing that. So I don't know what that says about studying, or if that's saying something about me in particular. Okay, thank you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
hitters.